Hi, welcome back to the Dylan Rounds case. Welcome if you're currently here in the live premiere. We're continuing on today. We're doing an up-close analysis of boots on ground footage near to the Grainshed property, the key area which is the gate to the Grainshed property. And the reason why we're doing it, I've never been able to provide to you a true analysis of what it looks like visually, my thoughts and opinions on the matter, right? I've told stories about it. I've incorporated it in several map analyses, but it's always been with satellite imagery. I think it's now time to be able to look at real-time photos, boots on ground footage, and get a better understanding of the location and what it's all about. And maybe it might help you understand it as well, when maybe you're making sense of your own thoughts and theories. It could well tie in with the 28th and that truck supposedly leaving the Grainshed property on the day. It could tie in with trying to understand a bit about Dylan Rounds in the morning time, actually getting to the place and finding that the gate was locked, right? And then times in the past where the horse escaped and that's why the gate was there in the first place, right? All these different little events, maybe it'll make more sense when you actually see what the gate looks like visually, okay? Now granted, maybe people already have seen it, but I haven't truly seen it. And maybe some of you haven't, but we can look at it today. Credit to JLR, who recorded the footage there, walking about. If you do want to see some of his recent Dylan Rounds videos, feel free to check his channel out. I guess I'll put like a link down below in the pinned comment section, okay? As well, there will be a link to my previous video I did about the Kenny Veach case. Last video being latest, up-to-date, or arguably up-to-date 2023 new satellite imagery of the M Cave hike area, Jermay Canyon, Picture Canyon, and all that, okay? If you want to see more about it and see what it looks like now, in recent time, check that video out. Link will be down below. As well, some other links in between, okay, if you wish to visit them. As we do go along in this video, feel free to use the chat box on the right hand side, give your thoughts, opinions and reactions on the matter, what we're talking about today, etc. Okay. As an observation to be made, the chat was extremely cleansed yesterday, but it's obvious why. We can do these predictions, we can do these observations, and it's always bang accurate, right? Because I kind of have an idea of what is happening or who is who could be the problem, who isn't, right, etc., etc. All under control. Ties in with the theme, at least at that moment, the positive of you move on to another case, you don't drag the other shit with you, okay? So that's another positive to, I guess, highlight. I would say, at least at this moment in time, I'm almost the last man standing when it comes to the Dylan Rounds case. I'm not physically the last man standing because I'm not boots on ground, but in terms of coverage of the case, I am the last centurion. I am the last catalyst standing, okay, when it comes to keeping this case alive on YouTube at least. But, regardless of who is doing it or who isn't, whatever, as long as there's some kind of coverage and valid stuff on the case, that's all that matters. And what we are going to do today to catch up on previous comments, to some people, this is very bad news. To begin this video off, to allow people to join on into this live video premiere, we're going to look back at the comments of the last Dylan Rounds video and the one before that, which is a fair few days ago, okay? Read the comments, they're not as long, I hope. See if there's any questions that need to be answered. See if there's any additional information of interest, right? Speaking of yesterday, the comments there were extremely long, but that is just a normal occurrence when it comes to the Kenny Veach case, especially when you get the chains, the threads of comments. With the Dylan Rounds one, it tends to be shorter. Is that because one's live video premiere, the other one isn't? No. It's just like, I guess more people have more things to talk about with the Kenny Veach case. because it's so open and up for debate, whereas the Dylan Rounds one, there's a little bit of order to it, right? Was there anything else I wanted to highlight in between? Not that I can think of at this point, but if I do think of anything else in between, I'll mention it in this video. So let's just begin and look at these comments and make sense of them. Here is the first comment section. Start from the bottom, not too many. So we've got Tom Evans. This is different. Does this mean something? Oh yeah, that was just to do with, that was explained anyway, regardless. Indiana, this is unusual timing. Yeah, that was because another video was coming out at the time. Herbs Healers, Pam. Thank you, Wallite Wrath. We'll try to make it. Being busy, clean yard. Oh yeah, that was an old one, yeah. Beatrice, keep doing what you're doing no matter what the topic is. You're an interesting person, never a dull moment. That's good of Beatrice. Linda, now that's interesting info. Wallite Wrath is making love connections for people. If anyone's confused by that, basically I have analysed and observed and picked up that there's certain levels of triangular lesbian relationships forming, developing, branching out over time, roughly within the Dylan Rounds community and extending outwards, right? Okay. Tom Evans, True Crime Utah reported that Candice, while leaving the courtroom, said Brenner is going to die before he goes to trial. That doesn't sound too good, does it? Tom Evans said himself that it feels like things have gone a bit quiet all of a sudden after that court case, or the court hearing, if you want to call it that. You thought there might have been a follow-up, a bit of a boost, a bit more talk going on. Though, you know, the way it was rescheduled, or the actual case being scheduled to June 5th, and in between that, knowing about Brenner's ill health, that's not exactly something to be positive about. You could say, oh, well, at least he's suffering. But no, you know, the worse off Brenner is, the more likely he is to die, the less likely you're going to get justice for Dylan. Possibly less likely you're going to be able to retrieve Dylan's remains. So even though you may hate a person, you want them to be healthy, right? Till the end, so when they get the conviction part done. I think it might have been Glorindalen that said Candice Cooley was upset or in tears because of Brenner. Suppose it looked like he could die too soon. Glorindalen said she had some kind of idea project she wanted to do for the Dylan Rounds case or for the Dylan Rounds legacy, but Candice Cooley blanked her at the time because she thought she was just media. Anyway, Herbs Healers, Brenner is looking at 25 to life for murder, 5 years for moving the body, not counting the gun charges. Okay. I think Glorindalen said something about other charges are going to be cancelled out, whatever that is. But I don't know what charges they were. Was it something... Must have been something unrelated to Dylan, of course. Was it the 2021 aggravated assault charge, which could be dropped because of it being going on this long? I'm not quite sure. If anyone can fill that in and explain, feel free to do so. Linda Cushing saying, I believe you have made the most videos on Dylan. Brenner owns 10 acres where the trailer burnt down. That's what I was referring to. Okay, fair enough. I mean, I personally don't know how much Elko County searched of Brenner's burnt down trailer. You know, I don't know if they did the full 10 acres or not. Didn't really get a clear up of that. Is there a possibility that maybe down the line, if Dylan's not found, people might go back down there to double check? We can do a poll right now. Why not? The poll can be, do you think that Brenner's burnt down trailer in Montello, Nevada needs checking again? Yes. No. I don't know. Feel free to vote. Okay. Quinton Lewis. What happened to that quintessential account? Strange. Anyway, Quinton says, someone drank all the booze. No wonder the whip was going crazy. There's Glenn. What does Jacqueline Rampley say? Jacqueline says, for all viewers and listeners, if you don't want to leave a comment, you can just leave an emoji as a comment. YouTube counts this the same as a longer comment. This will help the algorithm and lift the channel up. It's worth doing, as Warlight Ref deserves recognition for the hours of work he puts into his videos. Thank you. So shout out to Jacqueline, that's nice of her to say that. What's this one? Living Next Level, looks like a new viewer. Thank you for such awesome videos. You can do an amazing job putting together videos. I love all your hard work and effort it makes putting the videos together. Appreciate it. It's good of them. Got Patsy as well. And yeah, that's it for this comment section. Let's move on to the other one in relation more to the Brenner's court hearing video. So here is the other comment section, just arrange it. Got a few more here. Tom saying, I hope you're able to shed some light. Yep. Pack and Go, Giga, said she or he heard gunshots whilst camping when Dylan went missing. I found a comment, I snapshot it. Does anyone know who that person is? And if she or he was questioned by the LE, did she or he see anything else like machines or trucks driving around also? So, first of all, this comment, this supposed witness, what day did this witness, say they heard gunshots? 28th of May, 2022? Yes, no? Anything else? Indiana. I thought it was Walt and Michelle, but it's not. It was other campers that heard shots, but I never heard a time given. But given we now know Dylan was gone before 7:27 a.m, due to times when they heard shots match up with the time of Brenner's condemning photo. Yeah. What Indiana means by condemning photo, Indiana is referring to the 7:27 a.m. timestamp of the video recording 27 seconds long on Dylan's phone, in which Dylan's phone was in Brenner's trailer and the camera was pointing somehow to Brenner, who was sat down cleaning a gun, which could have been used, with Brenner having blood on his sleeves and on his shirt as well, right? So you pin it all together, it kind of makes sense of what could have happened, and him himself, who was the one responsible, right? But we talk about these campers, right? It's just one of those things where hopefully people aren't, other ones out there leaving these comments aren't getting confused with the witnesses. Like some people wording it as, oh, there's a witness there, there's a witness here, there's another witness there, but it's all of the same person, but they forgot the person's name. That would be a bit problematic. From at least what I know of, what I've heard of over time, two sets of witnesses. One set of witnesses, a couple at Little Pigeon Mountain around the area, camping, hiking out there into the early hours of the 28th of May 2022. I don't know how long they were there for. And then you also had Walt and Michelle on the 28th, but later on in the day when they were down there at Sun Tunnels, and when leaving, saw a truck leaving the Greenshed property and it passed by. Does that make sense? So any other groups and sets of witnesses in between? Not quite sure. Here it's suggested, but is it confirmed? I don't think it is. As for gunshots, why does it feel like there's so many witnesses, so many people present within the area, right? Why all of a sudden when it's a ghost town? If you're talking about the Memorial Day weekend, people having the barbecues, wouldn't it make more sense for people to gather as a whole in a town, in an actual area where people already live, where there might be bars, restaurants, buildings, houses, trailers, right? It'd make more sense. Unless people wanted to celebrate the Memorial Day weekend by just going out camping and hiking, possibly. Can anyone confirm that? I don't know if it's too soon. What I wanted to do was a poll, okay? I want to do the poll based on the conditions that, let's say, the Memorial Day weekend event didn't occur on that weekend. would you still have all these witnesses in the area or not? Can anyone answer? Feel free to vote. It could be yes, they would all still have been present, the witnesses. No, none of them would. Some of them would. I don't know. Feel free to vote. I just feel like, in general, if you talk about Montello, right? Okay, you might get higher amounts of traffic and just on the road itself. Maybe people just passing free or visiting throughout the day, throughout the weekend. But Lucin, I don't know. Unless it's just in between people going down to Montello, but then calling into Lucin just to have a walk about and see what's present. I don't know. It's just, as I said, and I'll say it once again, that with time, it just sounds like Lucin, Utah isn't as dead as you think, or was as dead as you think. Let's move on. Tom Evans, what's this? When is this family going to stop and check out the situation that they're in? Justin appears driven by grief and Candice is driven by hate. They need to stop and get what answers they can whilst they can. All I would say is they have taken some form of action. They've been able to reach out to ex-military and these other volunteer groups. If it's been put in place right now, then that's a positive, I guess. I don't think I mentioned it, but you probably would have seen it in the title. When we do look at the photos later on in this video, it might reveal some levels of activity in recent time by track marks, okay? More about that later. Make sure to stick around in this video to find out about it, okay? Responses. Let's hope she decides to be honest about what she says. We don't need to hear any more crap from her. Just tell us the truth and leave it at that. Yep. Okay. Quinton. Oh, long one. Candy said was west in the wash, but isn't correct. I thought was northeast or southeast, but didn't seem right on the map you showed. Ty Corbin said the main wash is southwest from Lucin Pond and 20 miles out will be close to the highway. Problem Candice has got is that she has Brenner's Saturday pings and they only show Brenner going back and forwards to Dylan's, then to the pond and Don's. Fair enough. She can't see his pins to the wash. She is focused on 20 plus miles out in the wash as well as the wash close to Dylan's, but LE and searchers already searched 5 miles of the wash closest to Dylan's. Brenner could have easily left Dylan Rounds and his phone at his place, then went to bury Dylan over 20 miles out in the 5-hour quiet gap. Or he went at night or Sunday to bury Dylan. There was about 1/3 tank of fuel not accounted for, so it matches up if Brenner drove out over 20 miles in the wash. I highly doubt more than 35 miles out. Dylan Round's pickup was driven after it rained, but Dylan never got to drive his pickup after the rain, only his truck during the start of the rain. Right. When you say only his truck during the start of the rain, you're talking about Saturday 28th in the early hours of the morning. Because if that's the case, Dylan wasn't driving his truck, Dylan was driving his grain truck, not his pickup truck. Anything else I need to read from her? Let's see. Sunday to bury Dylan. There was about 1/3 tank of fuel not accounted for, so matches up with Brenner. Yeah, I remember that with Dylan's pickup truck when Candice Cooley was talking about the estimated distance from here to there and how much was left over based off the amounts of fuel within the vehicle. Did we ever get to like a true head conclusion of that? Not really, to be honest. I guess if the pickup truck of Dylan's, the burgundy red pickup truck, never lost its original data of mileage, then you could have pinpointed where it actually went and who was behind it, right? Unfortunately, that's not possible. Let's move on. Oh God, not another one. Quintin saying, coming from someone that's daughter was kidnapped and found 10 days later, I can tell you a few things that's common logic. 1, never ever tamper with anything that could be evidence, so police can test and check. 2, rather tell people truth to save time, and so no one gets confused, especially when time is against a missing person. If it's something that could put a missing person in more danger, then only say what's necessary. 3rd, if people offer to help search, let them and work with them as a team and coordinate everything and organise them according to their strengths. 4, don't chase searchers away because you will regret it later when you can't find your kid. 5, if you can't pay anyone for their efforts, at least say thank you to each person making efforts to help. 6, speak to as many locals as possible, don't avoid them. The more info you get, the more you will find out. 6, if they catch the culprit and he wants to talk or make a plea deal, don't ignore the person. Listen to what they want to say, make a deal and find your kid, rather than live with no closure for the rest of your life. Yeah, fair points. Most of what Quintin said there, arguably, some of it, Candice Cooley just didn't follow, right? But I wouldn't say I'm in a position to be saying, right, you do this, you do that, you follow this order, you follow that order, that procedure. I'm not in a position to be saying all that, so I tend to keep my mouth shut there. The odd observation will pop up, right, about how things could have been done differently, but at the end of the day, I'm not in their position, right? So they're just reacting to the best of their ability or to what they think is best. Maybe towards other people that isn't good enough or it's done wrong, but they think they're doing it correct. What was the responses? I didn't check. Oh yeah, Smooth Fishing sharing his thoughts and opinions from his experience as well. I remember that. Glenn, sorry I missed the last couple lives. I'm getting caught up. An organised search should have been done from the get-go. I think at the beginning, Candice Cooley wasn't able to do that because the police didn't allow it, the LE. And I wouldn't be surprised by that because the LE supposedly delayed drones being used or just purely prevented them from being used because of incompetence and not having the pilots on site to use them. Delaying the canine units, cadaver dogs, delaying Texas Equisearch when they could come in. It was much later on, coming up to winter time, when they got the thumbs up to be able to go out there and help Candice Cooley and family. So I think at the end of the day, you got to try and weigh it up, providing what's said is the truth. You weigh up how much control did LE have over all the resources that could and should have been used from the beginning, though in this case weren't, because LE were supposedly responsible for delaying it all, or just outright preventing it. Do you want to do a poll again right now, or is it a bit too soon? We'll do a poll now anyway, because I'm sure people can click the vote button very quickly. Make sure to click the vote button very quickly of the current poll, okay? I'll give you a few seconds. Okay. Just read this one. Christy B. My heart goes out to all the parents who have lost their children and are telling their stories in the comments and in chat. Sending a warm hug and prayers your way. As a mother myself, I can only imagine your pain. You have my love and my huge respect for your strength. Okay. Right. So that poll, what we'll do right now, the new one, it can be worded something like, in your opinion, with the LE, their presence from start till, I guess, up to now, how much of a role did they play in being responsible for delaying and preventing equipment resources being used to locate and help find Dylan? A lot. They were completely responsible. They were partly responsible. they weren't to blame at all, it was others, like the family, to blame, or I don't know. Feel free to vote. It'll be interesting to see what the results are. We got Holly Hutchins, shout out new viewer, saying if Box Elder filed the charges and led investigation, then yes, they should still be attempting to follow leads to recover Dylan. In the US, police only pull back on searches if they no longer get or have solid leads. But let's be honest, Brenner was tracked through a vast area, so Box Elder has plenty of locations to get on top of. Now, that's like my next little discussion I brought up, maybe previous, but maybe it wasn't mentioned as much, to do with the LE. As the search for Dylan continues, are the LE still playing quite an active role, or are they still on the back burner? Are they still kind of being quiet, you know? If you think about it, if we rewind back to just before winter time, when Candice Cooley, Justin, Tech Research, Mob Crew Chris, K9 Unit did that big push out there looking through the wash, right? The LE at that time allowed it to happen. They gave the thumbs up, as quoted by Candice Cooley in a later interview after that. And around that time, Candice Cooley said that LE weren't being as resistant, weren't getting the nose in, they were actually laid back, keeping quiet, almost a little bit submissive. Has that changed since? I'm not quite sure. I can imagine Candice Cooley, Justin have been cooperating with the LE more so now than in the past, I think. When it came to February, I think it might have been the second week or the third week of February 2023, Candice Cooley said they were going to attend some kind of meeting with, well, Justin and her, with the LE and discuss things. When that was kind of roughly, vaguely brought up in a later interview on Doug's channel, I believe, or it could have been on the East Idaho News one, the last one, Candice said that the way things went, it could have been better. There was still stuff delayed. Like, they were hoping for more to be done, but that wasn't the case. So it kind of shows that, well, LE are still doing that thing of delaying stuff, dragging stuff out maybe. I don't know, unless you're just following procedure. Let's move on. Jacqueline Rampley, Brenner's new attorney needs time to go through the case so far to enable him to catch up before he defends him in court, hence the wait until June 5th. It is usual to do this, fair point. And I guess as well, whether it's similar in importance, well, probably more importance, don't know about relevance to this being pushed back. It's also good to have time in between, right, from now till then, to be able to try and look for Dylan Rounds, right, because that's ongoing. Let's move on. Jacqueline, some courts and other places advocate the wearing of mask as it's still around, yeah. Didn't see what ails Brenner. I do know there is a clip on YouTube from a court appearance of Brenner's back in 2011. Not sure where or what for. Was it about his wife back then? I forgot. 2011? Could be to do with the wife, his wife at the time, where he, threatened her with a firearm or something? Yeah. I mean, we did cover like some kind of court document one of Brenner recently where it gave extra details of his past crimes and what he's done to people. It might tie in with that. Was there anything else here? A clip from a court appearance of Brenner in 2011. Okay then. Just get an idea of his body language, his behaviour, to be able to maybe predict for the upcoming court case, right, in time. Can anyone in the chat right now try and get a hold of this 2011 court case appearance of James A. Brenner? Can anyone find that video of him on YouTube? If so, feel free to leave a link down below in the comment section. Okay? Make sure to do that. Don't do it in the live chat box because for some reason YouTube doesn't allow links to be shared in the chat box unless it's by me, the channel owner. I have no clue why, but I guess YouTube are being dodgy. But leave a link down below in the comment section if you do come across the YouTube video of the court case appearance in 2011 of James A. Brenner, okay? Just so we get an idea of things and how he is, right? Obviously, some people would have seen Brenner already in court in recent time, but for everyone else that wasn't there, to be able to see footage of another time, another point in the past of him, to see how he was, right? And also we've got Linda C. Shout out to Linda C for her super chat. That's good of her. Appreciate it. And is that it? Yeah, that's it for the comments here. So I was able to get through those comments reasonably quick, which is all good. What I do want to say is, if you are just suddenly joining into this live video premiere, welcome. If you do want to rewind and catch up on what's been said, feel free to do so. But what we are going to be looking at right now is the latest footage, photos of around the Grainshed property, more so the gate to the property. I'm going to take a look at it up close, try and understand it, analyse if necessary. I'll give you my thoughts, my opinions, as well as the location around, what I can see, test my knowledge of the area with all the maps I've looked at as well. Plus, showing potential new, recent, up-to-date activity within the area from what you see visually, okay? Hopefully you're ready. Yes, it does involve the Grainshed as well, so Graham, Dale, giggling in the background. Yeah, you're gonna get your wish, don't worry. Let's transition on right now and see what it's all about. Right, so here is the first image. We've got JLR right on the left-hand side of the screen, filling up most of the camera lens, but that's fine. This is recent footage, in case you're wondering. He has uploaded the videos to his channel documenting it, along with his visits down to Montello, the town, walking about there, as well as Brenner's burnt down trailer. Now, it could all be indirect. You know, JLR doing his own investigations, making sense of it, learning about the case because he just happens to be out there within the area. But it's, you know, can't help but acknowledge that it's very good indirect coincidental timing how when I've done videos on this area or that area, that little short-term mystery of Brenner's burnt down trailer, where did it go? And then it followed with JLR and his video trip out there, which debunked it. And, you know, with the gate as well, the Grainshed property. Oh, I wonder what it's all about. What does it really look like? And then JLR being here, visiting down. Now, from the looks of it visually, JLR didn't do anything wrong as for his visit down there, from at least what I saw from the footage. Okay. Yes, you do see that private property sign, but that means no trespassing over it. So over that fence, that would be considered trespassing. The sign itself, is that old? It does look old. What we need to acknowledge, in case if you didn't know yourself, the Grainshed property, I can't remember how far it dates back now, but it's fairly recent, right? Candice Cooley said in one of the previous East Idaho News Channel interviews, it might have been the last one, which was months ago, Candice Cooley said that there is a new Grainshed property owner and they are more stricter, right? That they will set cameras up and punish people if anyone does start trespassing on the land. Is that guaranteed? I don't know. That's from the words of Candice Cooley, who has been in contact with this Grainshed property owner, but it depends if she exaggerated or not. I would say ever since then till now, no one has tried trespassing or just going onto the land in general. So I guess there's that. My question is, does Kurt Wadsworth have some kind of relationship? I don't mean in a gay way, but like, does Kurt Wadsworth get on well with this new Grainshed property owner, or do they not even know one another? The reason why I say that is because the previous Grainshed property owner, Kurt had permission to go onto the area to look about, and that's what followed with Pancakes as well, tagging along and some other people, right? As for earlier on in the Dylan Rounds case, Kurt Wadsworth also had permission to get onto the area to take the backhoe from Dylan's farm to the Grangeshed property because the property owner wanted that to be moved, right? But if you think now you got a new owner of the Grangeshed property, then, does Kurt know who it is? Has Kurt interacted with him before? I don't know. Well, depends. Is this new owner more stricter than ever or somewhat lenient? Let me know your thoughts if any of you people know. But let's just focus more on what we can see on screen, right? So basically, where JLR is pointing in the distance is to the Grangeshed property, okay? Down here, if we're just to analyse the border of the property, the fencing, you can see there's like wire fencing there. And overlapping it, you do have barbed wire, which you should be able to see. There's some barbed wire there wrapped around. How useful is the barbed wire? Is it more so it keeps whatever in from escaping? Does it prevent people from getting into the property? Well, how it's been worded in the past, it would be easy for someone to climb over the barbed wire if they just either put a little sheet over it and then climb over, or you kind of press down on the wire to hop on over, right? Now, if it comes to an animal like a horse, they're probably not going to jump over it because they're just not. Like when I've been on walks myself and I've seen a field where there might have been horses, and I've seen the border, like the fence around it, which is just a little thin bit of barbed wire, and that's all. And I think, God, surely the horse could climb go underneath it, or maybe jump over it, but they don't. That barbed wire is more than enough as a deterrent to keep whatever on the property in from getting out. Though, when it comes to people trying to get into the place, they probably still can, right? So that just provides an idea, right? You got this private property, you're not allowed to go on it, it's fenced off, but technically you can still climb over it very easily, okay? Especially there, where it's a bit more covered. Okay? The actual fence itself, it's not wood, it's actually, well, at least from this area, it looks like not wooden, like metal pipes wedged into the ground. I saw pipes like that wedged into the ground recently when I walked past some area which was kind of cornered off for horses. Now, has this always been here, this fencing? From the looks of it, yes. If you go on Google Earth, look at Google Earth Pro, you go back in time and you see the border of it. It's been there for some time, okay? Was it ever replaced in between? I don't know. I can't quite tell by the look of it. The sign itself, though, does look quite old and worn. I think it's wrapped on with the barbed wire or something. But yeah, in the distance, you got Grangeshed property, and the items that are there. We can get a better view of it shortly, but let's just move on to the next slide. There you go, that's just a slightly up-close shot of that private property sign, no trespassing. I mean, do you know if you got a sign like that, a warning, and let's say the thing peeled off or the sign disintegrated and there was no more signs about, would you still get told off, in trouble, if you went onto the land and they said why, and you said, well, there was no signs to indicate it was trespassing? Would you be able to get away with that? Anyone know? Or would they just be very awkward about it? But yeah, looking at that fence, it's not exactly high security, is it? It's pretty weak, but I guess it does the job. I mean, as for the Grangeshed property, what animals were on site? Brenner's horse only? And that was it? The horse had more than enough, I guess, space to be running about. You got some vegetation as well growing on the ground too. I mean, would have been a time in the past where people may have gone along stalking the area or scouting it out near the fence with the binoculars. You know, like how people have done with Area 51. They've not trespassed, they've not stepped over the line, but they've hung around the area to try and look what's ahead. Did that ever happen in the past? More so, leading into my question would be, okay, we've heard about Brenner firing warning shots in the past at people who may get too close to him or step on his land. Did that ever happen with the grain shed property? Can anyone confirm? Was there ever an event in the past where someone tried visiting this place? They crossed over the boundary. Brenner saw them and started firing shots and said, shoot. Did that ever happen? Let's move on to the next slide then. So this is just a bit further along, okay? So you see here, we're on the left-hand side of the dirt road. This is still on the left-hand side of the dirt road, but just more to the right with the camera angle, okay? And the reason why I wanted to show this specific part is, that's the road that goes all the way down to the grain shed property, okay? But this point here is interesting. On the left-hand side, you got that like rickety fence with the barbed wire, okay? The actual pole in the ground is a bit bent. Interesting. So it's like a knackered fence. And it's this bit here, right? That's the road, okay? But just in front of it, you got this like wooden beam, wooden post, which is kind of propped up, which also has barbed wire wrapped around it, as you can see. From the looks of it, this appears to be the part which separates from this main fence on the left-hand side. So if you unwrap that wire or something, then you can open the gate to go to the grain shed property, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. Oh, hang on a minute. Do you know that there? It's probably hard to see. It looks like chains. It kind of looks like chains which have dropped on the ground or something. I could be wrong. I mean, like right now, does the grain shed property have locks on the gates or not? Does anyone know? In the past, I'm just trying to think. In the past, the way it was worded was Brenner decided to introduce a gate. Was that it? No, I don't think so. I think it was to do with Brenner was the one to introduce the usage of locks and keys on the gate to the grain shed property because people in the past were so lazy and reckless that they left the gate open, which then enabled the horse to be able to get out and just flee the area. And that annoyed Brenner. Brenner didn't like that, which is understandable. So that's why he started bringing in the locks and locking the gate, right? Him having the key. So someone like Dylan, who would come down to this area, would be at, disadvantage. He has to rely on Brenner to be present to unlock the gate. Does that make sense to you? And when I look at that, more so when you look at it zoomed out, that does look like chains that would be wrapped around that wooden post. The way it looks, if I'll be honest with you, that barbed wire is not attached to the fence on the left-hand side. That barbed wire continues on going right. So there's nothing lower down which is attached to the fence on the left-hand side. The only thing that's attached is that little bit of wire there, that little connection between the two, which holds it in place, I guess. Very flimsy, very rickety. But I do think, I don't know what that white thing is. Is that like a white cable tie? It's a bit long. But that there does look like chains, and maybe they're the chains that are wrapped around here as well to really hold it in place. But to be honest, if we do move on to the next slide, you can kind of make it out a little bit better. You can see the gate going across. It's called a gate, but it looks more like a rickety fence, okay? A fence as a gate, basically. That's what we looked at. You can see at the top where it's wrapped around. Okay. Not much really holding it up. It's not even like stuck in the ground. It's just like propped up in a way. And you look at that midsection though. Yeah, that midsection is very, very, it's almost going to fall over, right? Now, why is that? Has it always been like that? Or is it just with time? Was it damaged? I don't know. And as for the wire itself, that doesn't even look like barbed wire. That looks like normal wire. So really, if Dylan needed to climb over it, he could easily do that as well without even hurting himself, because it just doesn't look like barbed wire to me. You could climb over it, you could go underneath it, you could like lift it up slightly. Yeah. If you're in a vehicle though, could you mow it down? Probably, but it probably just wouldn't be ideal. You'd cause more damage running it over in a vehicle than if you used to climb over it yourself as an individual. So just a quick question. Did we ever come to a conclusion about this rickety gate? Okay. We rewind back to the 28th of May 2022 at 6:51 a.m. when Dylan made a phone call to his grandmother and then attempted to make a phone call to Brenna, I assume because the gate was locked. And then it just seems to fast forward from then, 6:57 a.m. to 7:03 a.m. What happened in between 6:57 a.m. to 7:03 a.m.? How did Dylan get his grain truck from here on screen, down to Grainshed property? Did Dylan receive a key to unlock the gate from the chains there? Or did he have to run it over and drive over it? Does anyone know? Does anyone have a true answer? Did Dylan unlock the gate himself? Did Brenna unlock the gate? Or did Dylan just plough through and run the gate over to drive down? Does anyone know? Anyone? Let's move on to the next slide. So what we're looking at now is basically further to the right. This is on the right-hand side of that dirt road, okay? Over on that side, so I don't want to zoom into his face. Over on that side is the Grainshed property. On this side, it's okay to be on, okay? Just in case you wondered the angling of it. But damn, look at, is that tumbleweed? Is that tumbleweed? Seems to be 2 lots of it. That's quite big. That's a big ball of tumbleweed collected along the side there. Wow. I've only ever really seen it in the cartoons, to be honest, and films. Wow. I guess the other observation we need to acknowledge, which wasn't said before, you look at the area, there's no snow, it looks warmish, the ground is fairly dry from the looks of it, okay? Do we have anything else? We've got some like piping on the floor. I think we might have a different angle of it somewhere. And then you got this as well, this like piping which is in the ground. What's the point of that? Is that just like park up things on the side, like a horse box maybe? Or if you attach horses, tie them up to that post as you dismount? Does anyone have an idea why that posting is there on the side? You look in the distance, that fence does cover a fair bit of distance, right? Doesn't it? It goes all the way down there into the distance. Interesting how you got some of these big poles stuck in the ground. It looks to be a bit more reinforced as well here. the fencing looks more thicker compared to what we saw on the other side, where it was a thin bit of barbed wire. I wonder why that's the case. I wonder why that fence... It looks like down there, there's not really much fencing. It looks quite bare. All you see is the post that go all the way down and maybe a thin layer, a thin wire. And yet here you can really see it's reinforced. So maybe this was done more recent compared to the stuff down there. You know, kind of like with the fencing there, that wire, the mesh or whatever you call it. It's more of that, but then past that point, it's only like one piece of barbed wire there and one piece of barbed wire down there. I think that's how it is for the rest of the fencing down there, just a thin bit of barbed wire. It's probably more than enough. I guess it's also just being efficient because such a vast area, desert terrain, pretty much a ghost town. You want a form of protection to keep people out, but you don't want to go heavy with the resources when it might not really be needed, because then it'd be a waste of time and maybe a waste of money. Let me know if you agree. Now, when we look here, basically this is looking straight on as if you were stood in front of this gate looking down that road, okay? JLR stood right in the middle of that gate, panned the camera down and zoomed on in. The camera quality being pretty good. There was quite a few ripples. That's because of the heat, right? So that highlights something, right? Wintertime, the snow previous, and now you see the heat. Now, obviously Graham Dale will be excited to see that the Grangeshed property is right over there, okay? There's the Grangeshed property for all the people excited about it for whatever reason, okay? Still appears how it did back then. There, that is not the backhoe, if you're wondering. That is like a roller, which is normally used to flatten down ground, compress it, make it smoother and less likely for vehicles to get stuck in because you're compacting the ground down, okay? What else do we have? We got that there, that vehicle, okay? Appears to be another yellow vehicle down there, but I think that's a tractor. Kind of hard to tell from this distance. That there is supposedly Ed Harshberger's mobile RV trailer, if you call it that, okay? Now in the past, I got a bit confused thinking it disappeared, but it didn't. It's still there. So there we go. That's yet another thing debunked. Ed Harshberger's trailer is still on the land of a new Grangeshed property owner. I'm surprised it's still there. Don't you? Isn't it weird in a way how some of the items left behind aren't even owned by the property owner, but they're still there, and yet other things have been taken away, like Brenner's trailer. I don't know if anything else was taken away from that area. Anything from the Grangeshed possibly. But if Ed Harshberger has left, gone wherever, why did he leave this behind? Can anyone answer it? And as well, the other thing to acknowledge is that door's open on the trailer. Is that new? Or has it always been like that? I'm just trying to think. In a past Fox 10 News coverage interview on YouTube when they were interviewing the Diesel brothers when they went down there to assist with Candice and Justin with the drones, and the news crew were panning footage around the area, one of the shots showed that mobile trailer up close and the door itself looked like it was battered, broken. The door was still attached, but it definitely looked like it was either kicked in or kicked out. I don't know how you call it. It just looked damaged. Does anyone remember that? What caused that? What caused that damage to the trailer when the rest of the trailer looks somewhat okay, but the door is messed up? I don't know. And why would it just be left behind to go to waste like that? Is that just what they do out there? Anyone know? Now, is there anything else to acknowledge? It's hard to tell from this angle, but there seems to be another vehicle down there behind. Yeah, behind this RV trailer. Don't know what truck it is. Which one? Is it a truck that's always been there? I don't know. I can't tell from this angle, okay? But one thing that I can acknowledge that's no longer present is, if you remember when Heavy D did the flyby, flying over the grain shed property the very first time round at the beginning of the Dylan Rounds disappearance case, you could see that there was a white truck parked up almost on the road there. I think it was more on the side slightly, but there was a white truck. Okay? Fast forward a few months on, it was still there, but it's no longer present anymore. Was it the grain truck? No, I don't think so. It couldn't have been, because the Heavy D flyby footage at the beginning, the grain truck was seen visibly on camera just outside of the grain shed property. Okay? Because it was June the 2nd, the spring cleaning, June the 2nd of 2022, when Brenner went into the grain shed property inside and drove Dylan's grain truck out and left it there. June the 4th is when Heavy D went down there with his crew and did the flyby, and that's why you could see the grain truck on site in view. But there was also another white truck further up this road, parked up on the side, and it remained there for a few months. When looking at recent footage, it's not there. So what truck was it? Who did it belong to? And why was it taken away? Right? So, obviously it's the angling. It doesn't look like there was as much stuff present there. I don't know if the backhoe is still there or not. I would guess and say it is. But yeah, okay. What's the next one? This is just further to the right-hand side. If you wonder what that is a boat. A boat on a trailer left out there. Don't know why. I don't know who it belongs to, but it's there. Okay. And it's been there at least since 2019. Okay. Some weird objects there. I'm not quite sure. Can't really make them out. Anything else? Don't know what that is. I think it's a tractor. I mean, you could say it looks like the backhoe, but I don't think it is at all. Yeah, that's about it. I think the only other thing to highlight, though, you look in the distance, you see those mountains. Quite a bit of snow on them still. Is there any chance that it could snow any more? Or has that time gone now? Can anyone answer it? Do you have any other angles to point out? I mean, I don't want to be making any predictions because I could be wrong. Not predictions, guesses. Do you like when I said about the environment, what you see around you, like the peaks in the distance? I wanted to try and point them out, and I will do so shortly. You might have a better idea, but I'll do it myself in a second. But the next photo I want to share with you is just a closer look at the road. So this is like looking over the gate, grain shed property down there. It just goes to show, even from this distance, it might be different if you're actually there yourself. But at least when looking through the lens of this camera, even from this distance, it's very difficult to see the grain shed property, which is down there. Does anyone agree? Right? If I was stood here and that's all I could see in the distance, I'd be like, Yeah, what's down there? I don't see anything. And they said, it's that. I'd be like, phew, I had no clue, I couldn't see that. It just goes to show that just because an area is so vast, open, desolate, and there's not much obstacles in the way, it can still be a bit tricky to see in the distance. Now, granted, maybe it's the video quality, blurriness of the camera, which does slightly impact your perception when looking at it. If you're actually there yourself, maybe you do get a better understanding of it. But, just working with what we've got, as said. Though, the most important part with this photo, and does it show in that one? No. But this one, you can clearly see track marks, right? Track marks, which go all the way up there. You can see kind of like the imprint of the track mark, right? But you can also see the width of the tracks, right? Where it's slightly lighter coloured on both sides. And it goes all the way down. Are the track marks deep? Not from the looks of it. But, with the ground already being compact, right, it's not going to leave big, deep imprints behind, right, for a reason. But I can definitely see track marks. Hopefully you can. Basically, more to the middle of the road where it's slightly lighter coloured. Lighter coloured lines going all the way down are track marks. And you see a little bit of the print of the track as well. Can I identify what track marks they are? It's hard to tell. Is the ground smooth? Where the track marks are, the ground does look a little bit smooth. So was it something being dragged along? Was it tracks of an... You know what? Should we do a poll? Let's do a poll. The poll can be, based off the track marks we see on the ground here, the dirt road, leading up to the Grainshed property, what do they belong to? What have caused these track marks leading up to the Grainshed property? Is it a normal vehicle, pickup? Is it some kind of excavator, backhoe? Is it an ATV? And then the other option can be other, and list it down below to what you think it is. I mean, do I see track marks overlapping one another? It's hard to say. But I do see a distinct set of track marks at least going all the way down. Nothing on the right-hand side, unless something came out at that angle. Why is there that little clearing there? You got the vegetation that goes all the way down in parallel to the dirt road, and then more vegetation there. But why is there that bland, that bold patch there? Did vehicles drive on to this area to then drive down there? Is it two sets of dirt roads? Can anyone confirm that? Is it like a turning point? Because it looks like the ground is a bit flattened there as well. I mean, we have heard those rumours, right? It's not like been 100% confirmed by Candice, Cooley or Justin from at least what I've seen. But the rumours that have gone around with time was suggesting that people are down there as we speak. People are in the Grainshed property, that things are being dug up, that an excavator was taken down there and it's been used, etc., etc. When looking at it here, is there any proof to suggest that? Well, there's definitely proof to suggest people have been down there in recent time based off the road itself, as you can see by the tracks. Now, what about looking up close? Do we see any signs of disturbance to the ground? Not from here, though. Not from this angle. That's disappointing. I mean, whether it's true or not, that's another thing. If it is true, it's trying to understand what angle and whereabout on the property was that digging taking place. And even if it did happen, why now? Why was it not done in the past, right? So yeah, activity going on and proof of it. Okay. I don't know if Lance Kelly will do a video and say, look, more track marks. I don't know. Oh, we've got a couple more photos, I see. Okay. So with this photo here, basically looking in the same direction as earlier on, but you can see more in the background itself. And I just wanted to point that out, okay? So if I'm correct in saying that what you see there, centre of the screen, is known as Lucin Hill. Lucin Hill. Okay? Over there, over that way, roundabout, is Bald Eagle Mountain. Okay? Anything else? Yeah. What's that? Does anyone know what that is? The ground itself looks slightly raised. Looks like a bit of a dirt mound, a mini one. But what's that pipe or tubing stuck out? Is it wedged in the ground, buried underneath? Is that piping got anything to do with the piping as you see here? It looks a similar colour as... We just go back to it. Yeah, looks a similar... Get off, twat. Looks a similar colour to this here. Doesn't it? So why is it in the ground? Or is it a water pipe? Can anyone explain? Just looks a bit odd the way it's positioned, and it does look like it goes into the ground as well. But it also looks like there's a pipe that connects off it and goes into the bushes as well. Yeah. A little bit weird, if I say myself. Right. With this angle, basically, let's say you were on the dirt road, looking down at the grain shed property in front of the gate, turn all the way around so you're facing south. This is facing south, what you see on screen. You follow that dirt road further down, you'll get to the crossroad where Sun Tunnels is on the kind of like on the left hand side. Okay? What do we see here? Well, there is more fencing. Okay. So that fencing must connect with that here. This here on the side follows all the way down south in parallel to the road. You see here, going all the way down there. Fair bit of distance, right? Got those like pipes on the ground, poles. I have no clue why they're there. Does anyone know? The ground itself does look very dry and cracked, almost like a drought situation. Appears to be something on the road there. I don't know if that's roadkill or not. Saw a video recently by Lance Kelly, and I think Ty Corbin also commented on it as well, but not on that video, but on one of my videos on my channel, where Lance Kelly came across like some cattle that were dead, but all wrapped up with rope, and it looked a bit dodgy, and that was somewhere in Montello, Nevada. He did provide coordinates. Don't know if it was ever followed up or not, but did anyone else see that about the cows, the cattle, dead, tied up with rope? Random. Kind of weird, that. Don't know if it was on purpose or they were being disposed of. I don't know. Down there in the distance, that peak, I believe, is Pilot Peak. Pilot Peak being the place Don Hately tipped off to the police as the spot where Dylan could be in the early days, which turned out to be false, and the police were annoyed with him. Why would Don say something like that? Makes you think, doesn't it? Is that it for the photos? Okay, fair enough. So, if you was to visualise it, whichever event you've heard of, can you apply it to what you see on screen here of how things could have played out? Visually, does it help you understand it better, clearer with the boots on ground footage? I mean, when you look at this shot, basically 28th of May 2022 around 3 p.m. over that way, a truck leaving the property. Who knows who it was behind the wheel, or why they came, or how long they were truly there for. But they left around 3 p.m. driving down this dirt road, right? Going through the gate here, and then continuing to drive south all the way down there, in which Walt and Michelle were further down there, leaving Sun Tunnels at the time when they both passed each other. So, yeah, I mean, with it being basically a straight road, you can definitely see a vehicle coming or going, right, and the dust trails as well. If you carry on going way down that way, further down, you eventually get down to Wendover and West Wendover, okay? So there's not really much else to point out here because we've gone through all the slides. Hopefully it was clear for you to follow, and it was good that JLR documented it himself in the actual video format. So the coverage then was almost very similar to how I used to do it with the Kenny Veach case when it came to boots on ground footage. Somewhat easy to follow, to pinpoint where you are, what's around you and what's in the distance, and to visualize it better when telling stories. I think on the maps, it's been successful. People have acknowledged that, which is good. I'm sure boots on ground footage really strengthens those ideas, right? So if you do have any questions, list them down below in the comment section. If you do have the link to that 2011 court appearance by James A. Brenner, list it down below. If you do have your own additional ideas, opinions, theories, list it down below. And just in general, let me know if you found the video somewhat useful. Let me know if you're surprised by the gate itself. Does it look any different to how it did back then? Are you underwhelmed by it? Are you like thinking, oh, I thought it was more to it than that, right? I think only once I saw a slight glimpse of the gate, and it was almost the bloody corner of it in the past with that Fox 10 News coverage, and it didn't do it justice when literally looking at the gate itself. But today we got a full view of it. So when people in the past said it's flimsy, it's rickety, it definitely is. Okay. Still, it's not quite been cleared up. Did Dylan on the day climb over the fence, run the fence down, driving over it in his truck, or wait for Brenner to come on down to unlock it? I don't know. We kind of jump from there to there. Candice Cully didn't really ever explain it. Now, with the way that court hearing went just recent and the way the mood has gone very quiet, is there a possibility that things will be delayed with that interview with Doug and Candice? With Gloria and Dylan saying something like Candice Cully was a bit upset, does that push things back? I don't know. I guess time will tell, of course. So I think we'll leave it there for now. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. And yeah, that's it for now. Goodbye and good night.